Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Awesome Albums with Awesome Andrew. How did you enjoy your new year? I'm hoping during the past month that you were waiting in anticipation for what's next in Tommy's life. For those of you who are just tuning in, this is a part 2 to The Who's 1969 rock opera, Tommy. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, definitely go and check that out, otherwise this part 2 isn't really going to make a lot of sense. If you have already seen it, then let me refresh you on the geniuses who brought this amazing album to life. Roger Daltrey, who does our vocals and harmonica and acts as our protagonist in the story. Pete Townshend, our primary songwriter, guitarist, keyboardist, and has as many vocal parts as Roger Daltrey does. John Entwistle, who plays bass, French horn, and has some vocal parts as well. And Keith Moon on drums. Tommy's life hasn't been easy. He saw his mother's boyfriend die, or in the movie seeing his father murdered by the boyfriend. He's closed himself off from the rest of the world, leading him to be abused by his cousin Kevin, as well as go under a massive acid trip from the Acid Queen, who was supposed to save him. Well, as the old saying goes, it will get worse before it gets better, and that's exactly where we're at in the story.
Do you think it's alright to leave?
A very short song asking if it's alright for Tommy to be left with his drunk Uncle Ernie. The 1975 movie based off the album has 3 variations of the song. One between Acid Queen and Cousin Kevin, one between Cousin Kevin and Fiddle About, and a third between Fiddle About and Sparks. And speaking of Fiddle About. Okay, so out of all the classic rock songs I've ever listened to, this is probably the one song more than any other song that is just uncomfortable to listen to. Unfortunately, it's a very crucial part of the story. Uncle Ernie, played by Keith Moon in the movie, is not only a drunk, but a pervert.
Down with the bedclothes, up with your nightshirt.
See, I'm sure that line is enough to not want you to continue listening to any more. Fortunately, the song is a little less than a minute and a half, so it's not very long, but long enough. In 2003, Pete Townshend said, "I believe I was sexually abused between the age of 5 and 6.5 when in the care of my maternal grandmother, who was mentally ill at the time. I cannot remember clearly what happened, but my creative work tends to throw up nasty shadows, particularly in Tommy." End quote. And I am moving on from this song. I'm done with this song. Until the extras. The most famous song on the album reached number 4 in the UK and number 19 in the US Billboard Hot 100. But what if I told you, though, that this song was actually an afterthought and the last song written for the album? Crazy, right? The only reason the song was even included was because in late 1968 or early 1969, when The Who played a rough assembly of their new album to critic Nick Cohn, Cohn gave a lukewarm reaction to it. So Townshend follows up with him on what he needs to do to make the album better. Cohn discussed that Townshend needs to lighten the load of the rock opera's heavy spiritual overtones and that the title character should be good at something, like a game. Cohn is a huge pinball fan, so Townshend suggested, "Let's make Tommy good at pinball," which Cohn immediately declared, "Tommy's a masterpiece." The lyrics are written from the perspective of a pinball champion known as Local Lad, according to the Tommy libretto book, who is just amazed at Tommy's abilities.
Ain't got no distractions, can't hear no buzzes and bells. Don't see no lights flashing, plays my sense of smell.
Since he's deaf and blind, he's completely oblivious to everything going on around him. So he's just able to focus on pinball, and that made him absolutely amazing at it. The movie version is one of the most memorable parts, sung by Elton John. John is seen playing his pinball machine via a small piano keyboard and has some additional lyrics. John's version is unique, wherein The Who in some way contribute to the other songs on the movie version, but Elton's version of Pinball Wizard uses only his own band. The end of his version also includes a subtle inclusion of the musical phrases of The Who's Can't Explain during the outro. John's version of Pinball Wizard can be found not only on the movie soundtrack, but also on the 1995 Mercury and 1996 Rocket reissues of 1974's Caribou. Despite the song seeing huge success, Radio 1 DJ Tony Blackburn criticized the single for being distasteful in its approach to those with disabilities. I have to disagree with him though. I see the song as a kind of motivation for those with disabilities. Tommy is blind and deaf. People wouldn't expect for him to succeed at anything or to be good at anything. But being the pinball wizard, he has proven the entire world wrong. That's pretty awesome.
There's a man I found could bring us all joy. There's a doctor I...
A very short song and very self-explanatory. Tommy's parents find a well-respected doctor who might have the cure for Tommy.
Let's see him tomorrow. He seems to be...
Author Chris Charlesworth describes the song as a key Tommy song because it advances the plot describing Tommy's healing process through his ability to see his reflection in a mirror. The song is sung by a doctor who tells Tommy's parents that after numerous tests, there's nothing that is really wrong with him, at least medically.
There is no chance, no untried operation. All hope lies with him and none with me.
The doctor is saying that though his condition is real, it's nothing physical but rather psychological. There's nothing I can do, it's all up to him.
See me, feel me, touch me, heal me.
We have our next instance of the See Me, Feel Me that we first saw back in Christmas. However, this version of the See Me, Feel Me is actually sung by Townsend rather than Daltrey. This was to contrast Daltrey's lines of singing as the Doctor. The movie version does not include the segment, nor does it have the listening to you part, which you'll be hearing in the background. Speaking of the movie, the Doctor in the movie is played by Jack Nicholson. One more little fun fact about the song, that it was included on a list of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's 500 songs that shaped rock and roll.
I get excitement at your beat. Tommy, can you hear me?
This song has some excellent three-part harmony between Daltrey, Townsend, and Entwistle. Tommy is staring at the mirror at home, and his mother is asking him sweetly if he can hear her or see her. This, of course, isn't the first time they've asked, but considering that Tommy is staring at this mirror, makes you wonder, can he see me? Can he hear me?
Tommy, Tommy. You don't answer my call.
This frustration of Tommy ignoring his mother caused her to smash the mirror. The rise, rise, rise
Rise, 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 rise.
is the most memorable part of the song, which ends with his mother smashing the mirror. After the mirror gets smashed, Tommy's mental block is removed, and he recovers his senses. This certainly is quite the miracle. He could see, he could hear. He becomes totally aware of who he is finally, and admires his own beauty and starts worshipping himself. Although I guess he is pretty irresistible. Due to this miracle, people start flocking to him as if he's some kind of new messiah.
Now our disciples, love is one. I am the
The shortest song on the album, and the shortest song I've actually ever listened to, at just 11 seconds. Of course, it's a newspaper talking about the Pinball Wizard's miracle cure of being able to see, hear, and speak. I used to think that this song was a love interest in the story, but it turns out it's really just about a fangirl. The song actually predates the album, inspired by a true event. There was a show that The Who played with The Doors that erupted into violence. Townsend witnessed a girl being beaten by security men under Jim Morrison's watchful eyes. Sally, she wants to go see Tommy preach. She's hoping he'll notice her and maybe speak to her. Despite her father's wishes to stay home, she goes anyway.
The atmosphere was cooler and Tommy gave a lesson.
A couple differences between the album and the film version is that the album just describes Tommy giving a lesson, whereas in the movie, the lyrics are changed to the words of that lesson.
She ran across stage to the spotlit figure and brushed him on the face.
This is the other major difference where Sally, played by Victoria Russell, director Ken Russell's daughter, never succeeded to make it onto the stage, as she is kicked off the stage before she gets even close to Tommy.
Ooh. 16 stitches put her right in the dance. Said, don't say I didn't warn you. Sally got married to a rock musician she met in California.
Remember when I said it would make more sense for the song 1921 to be 1951 like it is in the movie? This is one of the major reasons. Victoria Russell was 13 when the movie was made, so I'm assuming Sally is about that same age. And if Tommy was born at the end of World War I, then this is probably late 30s or early 40s or so for him to be in his early 20s. So Sally would have been born in the mid to late 20s, so she would have been in her upper 30s to get married to a 50s rock musician. Whereas if 1921 was 1951, it is far more likely for her to marry a rock musician in her 20s in the 1960s than it would be for her in her 30s or early 40s to marry one from the 50s. Although I guess that's still possible. Am I making sense to you? That was a lot of numbers I was throwing at you at once, and I hope it made sense. I'm Free is another very well-known song from the album, released as a single with Tommy Can You Hear Me in Europe, We're Not Gonna Take It in America, and Go to the Mirror in Australia. Pete Townshend has claimed that the song was partly inspired by the Rolling Stones song Street Fighting Man. He says, this has a weird time shape, and when I finally discovered how it went, I thought, well, blimey, it can't be that simple. But it was, and it was a gas, and I wanted to do it myself. End quote. As you can imagine, this song is about Tommy being free from his self-induced curse, and he feels that though he has achieved true happiness and wants others to follow him, believing that if they follow him, they will find true happiness too. And with all these followers, he has now formed a new religious movement. With all these followers, he has encouraged anyone and everyone to come to his house so he can preach to them.
Ask along that man who's wearing a carnation. Everyone go home and fetch their relations.
With Tommy's newfound popularity, the house is filling up quick.
Excuse me, sir. There's more at the door.
Entwistle does the spoken lines there, who tells Tommy that there's more and more people.
We need more room, build an extension, a colorful palace, spare no expense now.
Naturally, they need more room, and this causes the creation of a camp where everyone can live. This is a very carnival-like song, credited to be written by Keith Moon. Although this isn't entirely accurate. Townshend wrote and recorded the song, but he gave Keith credit because he was the one who came up with the idea of the sort of cult that Tommy would lead and his holiday camp. At the beginning of the movie, there's a song called Bernie's Holiday Camp. Though a different song, shares the carnival-like sound, and at the end, young Tommy, played by Barry Winch, sings lyrics nearly identical to what he would sing as an adult. The final track on the album can really be broken up into two parts. The first is the We're Not Gonna Take It section, not to be mistaken with the Twisted Sister song.
We're not gonna take it. Oh, we ain't gonna take it. Oh, we're not gonna take it anymore.
This was another song written before Tommy had been completely formed, and that particular song wasn't originally about Tommy's followers at all. Pete Townshend says it was about the rabble in general. How we, myself as part of them, we're not going to take fascism. We're not going to take dreary and dying politics. We're not going to take things the way they were, the way we've always had been, and that we were keen to change things. End quote. Throughout the song, Tommy tells what his followers can and can't do. If they want to be like him, they can't drink, they can't smoke dope. The song starts off with just a whisper with the followers saying we're not going to take it. Just a few followers are getting tired of this.
Ears are truly sealed, you can't see nothing, and pinball completes the scene. Here comes Uncle Ernie to guide you to your very own machine.
No, that is the final straw. No way we're going to have Uncle Ernie do that to us. We're done with you, Tommy. We're out of here. Of course, the followers leave. Now, in the movie, they destroy the camp and murder his parents, leaving Tommy all alone.
See me, feel me, touch me, feel me.
Tommy retreats inward again after his followers abandon him. This is the second half of the song, and See Me, Feel Me reached the top 20 in the US. The title of the song is also used as a title of a biopic about Keith Moon. The full title is See Me, Feel Me, Keith Moon, Naked for Your Pleasure. Which, with a title like that, I kinda don't want to see it. Why does this picture exist? Anyway, the biopic is produced by Daltrey and Mike Myers plays as Keith Moon.
I climb the mountain, I get excitement at your feet.
And that concludes the final song on the album. Since its release in 1969, the album saw massive success. It reached number 2 in the UK and number 4 in the US. It sold 200,000 copies in the first 2 weeks in the US alone, and was awarded a gold record for sales of 500,000 on August 18th. An EP of selections from the album was planned to be released in the UK in November of 1970, but that idea was dropped. Sales, of course, only continued to incline, and as of 2012, Tommy has been certified diamond, which means it sold over 10 million copies, and this album has sold 20 million copies worldwide. That is just insane to think. And this success was partly what planned the movie in 1975. It had actually been planned since the making of the album, but the plan was shelved. 3 years later, Townsend and The Who were working on their next rock opera, Lifehouse. Manager Kit Lambert pitched an idea for a Tommy movie, and with this working document present potential backers as a story outline. Thanks to Ken Russell, the project finally had a director. He was the perfect fit for this movie, considering that he already made a string of films on the lives of classical composers, and had also written a screenplay of his own about religious cults, which, though that was turned down, but he was able to combine those two ideas into the screenplay for Tommy. While Russell was working on that, Townsend was hard at work on the soundtrack. Russell, of course, needed to add more material, and so Townsend helped write more music for the scenes. While the movie being made and several play and orchestral adaptations made just proved that Tommy could be made into just about anything, and in Townsend's case was tons and tons of money. He said in 2004, "If it's such an effing stupid idea, why is it grossing so many millions of dollars?" While I feel that Townsend topped himself in 1973 with Quadrophenia, their second rock opera, there's no denying that this album is mind-blowing. It really is an experience listening to it. Lyrically brilliant, able to perfectly paint this image in our heads of Tommy's life and his rise. And musically, the more you listen to it, the more you realize just how well everything goes together. A lot of the songs are good standalone songs, but hearing them together in the concept of this album gives a lot of the songs a whole new meaning, and it reaches you on a deeper level. This has been Awesome Andrew, telling you that The Who's 1969 rock opera, Tommy, is an awesome album, and I'll see you guys next time.